Hello and welcome to the extended 1 o'clock news.
The headlines this lunchtime.
The President-elect of the United States of America, Donald Trump.
Donald Trump rocks politics as he sweeps to victory in the race to the White House.
I've just received a call from Secretary Clinton. She congratulated us, it's about us, on our victory.
Taoiseach extends congratulations. Other world leaders, as well as markets, react to an unorthodox winner.
The people of America have made a very clear choice, and I congratulate Donald Trump on behalf of the people of Ireland.
Build that wall! Build that wall!
Americans digest the result after a bruising campaign.
It's going to bring a better economy, a safer country, law and order.
The United States is waking up to a new reality. Donald Trump has won the US presidential election. Following a long, bitter, divisive campaign, the Republican candidate becomes the country's 45th president.
The billionaire businessman scored a dramatic win over his Democratic rival Hillary Clinton. In his victory speech, Mr. Trump promised to unite the country and be president for all Americans. The Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton conceded the race and offered her congratulations to Mr. Trump.
First, we can have a look at how individual states voted. 3 states have still not declared. These are Minnesota, Michigan and New Hampshire. But the scale of Donald Trump's victory is apparent overall. And of course, he won the battleground states of Florida, Ohio and Pennsylvania.
In the all-important Electoral College, Donald Trump comfortably exceeded the target of 270 votes needed to win the presidency. He currently stands at 289. That's compared to Hillary's 218.
And in the popular vote, that's the number of Americans who voted for each candidate, you can see how tight the margins were, with currently just 0.1% between Mr. Trump and Mrs. Clinton.
The President-elect of the United States of America, Donald Trump.
Shortly before 8 a.m. Irish time, Donald Trump took to the stage to announce that Hillary Clinton had called him to concede and to congratulate him on winning the election.
Now it's time for America to bind the wounds of division. Have to get together. To all Republicans and Democrats and independents across this nation, I say it is time for us to come together as one united people.
And that was Donald Trump, the 45th president of the United States.
That's how the election coverage ended this morning, but just a few hours before, nobody was predicting a Trump win. As voting closed and the analysis got underway, much of the talk was about the uphill battle that he faced. He'd have to win swing states and even turn Democratic states Republican. But then, as the votes started to be counted, that uphill battle started to go his way. And at around 3 a.m. Irish time, a crucial swing state was called for Donald Trump.
That once all the votes are counted, Donald Trump will win Ohio. Now, this keeps his hopes.
Ohio is seen as a bellwether state, and for the last 50 years, whoever has won there has gone on to win the White House, and this election was to be no different.
Hillary Clinton has won the Old Dominion.
There were some wins for Hillary Clinton, but as the night went on, more and more states on the electoral map started to turn Republican red, and the mood of Hillary Clinton's supporters in New York started to turn to despair. They'd campaigned to elect the first woman president, but their dream of shattering the glass ceiling had itself been shattered. The atmosphere among Donald Trump's supporters couldn't have been more different. Some of the loudest cheers of the night came when Donald Trump won the key battleground state of Florida.
He has now racked up Florida, North Carolina, and Ohio by our estimates.
A night that had begun with questions about Donald Trump's pathway to victory soon changed to questions about what had gone so terribly wrong for Hillary Clinton. Early in the night, she herself seemed to hint that things might not be going her way. She tweeted to her campaign team, "Whatever happens tonight, thank you for everything." Meanwhile, Donald Trump tweeted a picture of himself, his family and his vice presidential candidate watching the results coming in.
The chair of Hillary for America, John Podesta.
With counting in the final few remaining states coming to a close, most were predicting a Trump win, but Hillary Clinton's campaign manager said she would not be conceding.
They're still counting votes, and every vote should count. Several states are too close to call, so we're not going to have anything more to say tonight.
But less than an hour after that speech, Hillary Clinton called Donald Trump to concede, and one of the biggest upsets in electoral history had become a reality.
I love this country. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Brian O'Donovan, RTE News.
Thank you to Mike Pence.
And our reporter Richard Downs joins us now from Washington. Richard, Americans waking up to a new political reality.
Very much so, Aengus. It's not something they were prepared for. I think in general, the media, the establishment, all of the organs of the state, if you like, all were ready for a Hillary Clinton victory, but it was not to be. It was a stunning victory for Donald Trump, and it's just beginning to be absorbed by the populace and indeed by the establishment, who have to face somebody who is not a political figure, who's never held political office, the first American president elected to that office without having been a councillor, without having been a city official, without having been a state official or a senator or a member of the House of Representatives, having had no military career or anything like that. First time ever, and they have to deal with Donald Trump now.
And at what point in the night did it become clear that Donald Trump really had a good chance of taking the White House?
I think it was clear very early on that this was going to be an incredibly tight race, and as you heard reported there in Brian's report, the numbers race, if you like, is incredibly close. But when he took Florida, and even though I think it was 100,000 votes in the end, people started to say, wow, this is a Trump wave, this is something different, this is not something that we were expecting. And then North Carolina, and then all of a sudden this very difficult path to get to 270 was all of a sudden open to him, and then all the other races started to fall his way. It was really an extraordinary couple of hours in the middle of the night here. People were glued to their televisions, listening to their radios, following it on their phones. They really couldn't believe, many people really couldn't believe it was happening, but in short measure it was confirmed, and he came out in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. or so, and accepted the victory in what was, as many people have said here, a very gracious speech. Now, Hillary
Clinton conceded by telephone to Donald Trump, but we have yet to hear from her.
Yes, indeed. I think that gives you an idea of the measure of disappointment that she must be feeling. Her campaign manager came out and said, look, we're still in it and we're hoping that it can fall our way. But it was very obvious even at that stage that it would take something of a political miracle to get her over the line. So she phoned Donald Trump directly herself, conceded to him, and then he took it upon himself to come out in his campaign headquarters and to make that speech. So it must have been an incredibly difficult night for Hillary Clinton. This was supposed to be the culmination of a political career that started, 30 years ago, included being a senator, a first lady, secretary of state, and all sorts of other high accolades. But of course, in the end, it was some of that establishment flavour around her and that whole smell of being a member of the establishment that actually did it for her. That's not what people in America wanted this election. They wanted somebody new, they wanted somebody fresh, even if it was somebody who they regarded as unpredictable and who in the exit polls many people said was unfit or unlikely to be fit for office. That's what they went for this time and not for the established old-time campaigner.
Richard Downs in Washington, thank you.
Well, both candidates have been hosting their post-election gatherings in New York City. Our reporter Sean Makatsihi gathered reaction from voters as the results came in.
We're going to win, and we're going to clean the mess in Washington, and we're going to drain the swamp.
Trump supporters head for Midtown Manhattan, confident of defying pollsters, while Democrat supporters gathered in the East Village.
I don't like that Ohio's as tight as it is. Well, Florida, yeah, Florida's always a scary one. We've had a long history of troubles with Florida.
Hillary Clinton is hosting an event about a mile from here, while Trump is based here in the Hilton Hotel in central Manhattan. A crowd has started to gather here, and at this point, they remain extremely confident.
We're still in the lead, but it's a bit closer. We're still in the lead, guys.
As the states declared, one
Florida
after the other, Trump gained momentum.
We'll make a president that's for the country and only for the country, not a person that's for the whole world. That's what he said, and he always said it. I'm running for president of the United States, not for the world.
You can tell he's just a regular, he can connect with the regular blue-collar people, people who are out of jobs, people who are trying to make ends meet with their families.
It's going to bring a better economy, a safer country, law and order, and conservative Supreme Court justices.
He's going to repeal Obamacare, which is unaffordable.
Do you have any reservations?
He's going to clean up the corruption in Washington.
You hear what I just said? He's going to bring taxes down to 10%. He's going to get rid of regulation. He's going to get rid of the IRS. That right there is announcing the Emancipation Proclamation for black people and white people. USA.
I think there'll be a great effort, especially by the media, to foment dissension in the early part of his presidency, but I think that'll give way to the populist message that he articulates.
Build that wall! Build that wall!
America will wake up to a new president-elect and possibly a very different country.
Trump in the White House, Hillary in the jailhouse.
Sean McAteague, RTE News, New York.
Donald Trump supporters erupted in delight at the news of his shock victory last night. Some broke into song.
Glory, glory, hallelujah.
While others just chanted his name. And there were no doubt as to what his win would mean for the country.
We're going to get back to what we need to, which is God, faith, and country.
We needed a change, and Donald Trump would provide that change.
But if those in red were ecstatic, then Democrats very much had the blues. At a Clinton rally in New York, it became apparent that victory was imminent for Mr. Trump. Supporters left quietly, many overcome with emotion. Some were openly despairing.
I'm very, very disappointed in my country right now.
It's gonna be bad, man. It's gonna be bad for a lot of people I love. You know, it's gonna be bad for people who are LGBTQ. It's gonna be bad for people who are minorities.
I'm surprised. I would say shocked, scared.
In Mexico, the election was closely followed. Small wonder, considering that Mr. Trump has pledged to force its government to pay for a wall on the border to keep out illegal migrants. Americans watching in Mexico City saw only one solution.
You should just build a wall around the middle of America.
Back in the United States, Republicans continued to celebrate. But for Democrats, the party was most definitely over. Joan O'Sullivan, RTE News.
Robert Short is with us now, former Washington correspondent for us. Robert, the analysts will be drilling down into these figures. And so far as we can tell right now, who turned out for Trump, who didn't turn out for Hillary Clinton?
Well, I think the key thing to have come out of this election, and in as much as we can tell from the exit polls, it was really a huge repudiation of the Democratic Party by blue-collar or working-class voters, and particularly white blue-collar working-class voters. I mean, the figures are really quite something. If you look at, this is how they measure it in the States, if you look at non-college educated whites, if you look at women voters, 62% voted for Donald Trump. So obviously the issue of gender was not as important as someone's economic circumstance. So that knocked a lot of the perceived wisdom on the head. But then if you look at non-college educated men, an incredible 72% voted for Donald Trump. And we saw the evidence of that right throughout those Rust Belt states that ended up voting for Donald Trump, the likes of Ohio, the likes of Pennsylvania, and indeed Wisconsin and Michigan. So I mean, that was a definite move. The other theme of the night, early on, people were speculating somewhat giddily about, was this election going to be the Latino election? Well, sadly for Hillary Clinton, it wasn't. Incredibly, Donald Trump did better with Hispanic Latino voters than Mitt Romney did. So Mitt Romney gained about 27% of Latino votes. It looks now that Donald Trump got about 29%. And in Florida, and this may be the influence of some Cuban Americans who may have traditionally tended to vote Republican, the percentage of votes from the Latino voters was something like 65%. So it may have tipped that very closely fought state into the Trump camp.
We know that the African Americans didn't turn out for Hillary Clinton in the numbers she was expecting.
Absolutely, and that was the broad coalition that Barack Obama was so successful in creating, this sort of liberal left of centre coalition of college-educated white voters, along with big ethnic turnout from Latinos and black voters. And we saw in North Carolina, again, it was another key battleground states. It's believed that the turnout amongst black voters was 9% less than it was in 2012. So a lot of questions over why that was.
Let's look at the map, Robert, because what we're looking at there, it is a sea of red, and the Democratic states really banished off into the coastal areas.
Well, I mean, the western seaboard of the United States has long now been Democratic, and it stayed Democratic. But even those big states like California weren't enough to help Hillary Clinton in the Electoral College. We see on the eastern seaboard, it's probably more interesting to watch, that the Democrats, as you say, have been banished right up there into the northeast. They held on to Virginia, an important battleground state, but only just, and it took a long time for that result to be announced. I think what's really interesting about the map is the bit in the middle. Apart from Illinois, those states there, traditional democratic states, working class, blue collar states, they turned Republican. And I think the Democrats will be asking themselves a lot of questions as to how blue collar working class Americans came to identify with the Republican Party, and I suppose in particular with the particular brand of populism that Donald Trump was selling, and why their candidate did not enthuse them.
Yeah. Very good. We leave it there. Robert, thank you.
Here, the Taoiseach and Kenny has said he will be contacting President-elect Donald Trump and future First Lady Melania later today to offer his congratulations. Mr Kenny also said that Ireland looked forward to having a strong relationship with the United States. He's been speaking to our political correspondent, Martina Fitzgerald.
Well, the people of America have made a very clear choice, and I congratulate Donald Trump on behalf of the people of Ireland on being elected as President-elect to take up duty in January. I've written formally to the President and indeed to Vice President Pence, congratulating them and stressing the fact that Ireland will continue to work in very close relationship with the new administration, as we have done over many years with different presidents and different administrations in the States.
Taoiseach, before you have said on the Dáil that you found some of his comments to be racist and dangerous, and you later explained that you would have no issue explaining that to him, that some of his statements were racist and dangerous. Do you stand by those commitments?
I made a comment in the Dáil in respect of comments that were made by the President-elect in the heat of a primary battle. I listened very carefully to his comments this morning, and the first thing he said is that he wants to build new relationships, to heal up wounds, to work in partnership with other countries and other peoples, and Ireland falls into the category of wanting to work very closely with the United States, and we will work very closely with the President and with his new administration. And one element I pointed out to him in the letter I sent to both he and the Vice President is that immigration reform is something that's of importance to Ireland here, and because of the new change both in the Senate and the Congress, we will work closely with the Republican members there on the basis of hopefully seeing immigration reform being put back on the agenda.
But do you stand by the comments that you believe that some of his statements were racist and dangerous, and that you would explain that to him if you met him?
I referred to his comments that he made in the heat of battle in a primary election. And obviously, I will work very closely with the President-elect. I listened, as I said, to his first comments this morning about healing wounds, about building partnerships, about working with other countries that want to work with the United States, and we fall into that category very much. Our relationship with the States for many years has been expanding and developing. I might point out that, for instance, 100,000 American people are now employed by Irish-owned companies across 50 states.
So you won't be withdrawing that statement?
I will work very constructively, as will the government, with the American administration. It's in our interests as a country that has had a long, proud history of working with America, very closely with America, to continue to do so in the future, and I look forward to that.
What about his plans to slash US corporation tax to 15%? How concerned should this country be about that?
Well, obviously, tax issues in respect of the United States are a matter for the US administration. Corporate tax rates here are a matter for the Irish government as a member of the European Union. It's within our competence as a national entity to deal with it here ourselves. So from that perspective, I expect business to continue and continue very strongly. In fact, the investment line from the States into Ireland continues to be very strong, and we want to see that continue to develop for the future. It's not just about tax, it's essentially about the quality and the range of young people coming through to meet the emerging skills and demands of the future.
But would it be a concern if it went to 15%?
Well, many countries in Europe are changing their corporate tax rates. That's within their competence as European Union measures. Matters of corporate tax for the United States are a matter for their administration, and I'm sure they will reflect on that in the future.
And Martina joins us now. Martina, when the Taoiseach described comments by Donald Trump as racist and dangerous, how does he really come back from that?
Well, I suppose that was the big question today that many people wanted to see answered. And many people, it has to be said, were surprised when, while pressed in the Dáil by Richard Boyd Bard and Micheál Martin, he did say that some of Donald Trump's comments were racist and dangerous. And he was not alone. Several other politicians were very critical of Donald Trump at the time, but many people surprised at the strength of the Taoiseach's comments. Now today, he said that yes, he did make that comment on the Dáil record, but he also said that he had he made those comments in reaction to Donald Trump's comments in the heat of a primary battle. So he pulled back there from a critical, I suppose, tone to a more conciliatory one. He also said, as you saw there, that he listened very closely to Donald Trump's speech this morning about healing relationships and building new ones. So the Taoiseach, a pragmatic politician, now readjusting to the new political realities. And we should point out that Leo Varadkar, Micheál Martin, Fianna Fáil's Darragh O'Brien and other politicians also made critical remarks about Donald Trump some months ago. But it also should be noted this morning that the leaders of the three main parties here have sent out statements congratulating him on his election.
And of course, Martina, the election of Donald Trump has raised concerns about the undocumented Irish in the US.
That's right, and that was raised by Gerry Adams in the Dáil during leaders' questions. Now, the Taoiseach has indicated it will be a priority for the government to put that back on the agenda, and that he and the government will be working closely with Republicans in the Senate and in Congress to do so. But while they see it as a priority, really the big question mark is over the response they'll get from those Republicans, and particularly given Donald Trump's stance.
And in terms of Irish-US relations, of course, there would have been closer ties with Hillary Clinton.
I think it's fair to say there were a very close affinity and ties with the Clintons. While Bill Clinton was president, he engaged and supported the peace process and visited Belfast and Dublin while in office, and drew huge crowds, thousands of people onto the streets of Belfast and Dublin. So the Clintons would have been seen as friends of Ireland, and many here in the political world, north and south, would have seen Hillary Clinton as a continuation of that legacy. So I'm sure there is not only an affinity but some sympathy with her today. But politicians are now having to adjust to the reality that Donald Trump is heading into the Oval Office. And as the Taoiseach said today, that Ireland has worked with different presidents in different administrations, and that is the reality.
Martina, thank you.
Now, still to come, the story behind the man now bound for the White House, and we take a look at how the world has reacted to his election.
Welcome back to this extended 1 o'clock news. Donald Trump has been elected as the 45th President of the United States of America. The Republican scored a stunning win over his Democratic rival, Hillary Clinton.
In his victory speech, Mr. Trump said it was time to bind the wounds of division and for America to come together as one united people.
World leaders have been reacting to the result. The Russian President Vladimir Putin said he hoped Mr. Trump's victory would help restore relations between the two countries. However, stock markets in Asia and Europe have tumbled following the outcome.
Good evening. America has today lived through an almost unbelievable 24 hours of shock politics.
जो रिजल्ट है वो सामने आ गया है डोनाल्ड ट्रंप
45-го президента США Дональда Трампа.
Around the world, news of Donald Trump's victory. And as the result was confirmed, world leaders and politicians began to send congratulations. Some fulsome, some more tentative.
On behalf of the Australian Government, I offer my congratulations to President-elect Donald Trump on his historic election victory.
As President of the European Parliament, I congratulate the newly elected President of the United States, Donald Trump.
I look forward to meeting Mr. Trump soon and welcoming him to Brussels for the NATO summit next year to discuss the way forward.
Russia was the first to send its congratulations. Within hours of the result, President Vladimir Putin flagged Moscow's willingness to fully restore ties. Later, the British Prime Minister Theresa May sent her good wishes.
We have a long-standing and enduring special relationship which is built on our shared values of freedom, of democracy and enterprise. And I look forward to working with President-elect Trump to ensure that we can maintain the security and prosperity of our two nations in the future.
But in other parts of the world, the uncertainty about Trump has been reflected in anxious statements.
Je le félicite comme il est naturel entre deux chefs d'État démocratiques.
French President François Hollande has said the results show that France must be stronger and Europe more united. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has offered Trump close cooperation on the basis, she said, of shared transatlantic values. Anxious to meet the President-elect, EU leaders have already invited Mr. Trump to an EU-US summit. Sinead Hussey, RTE News.
I'll have a quick word with David Murphy in a while. But first, let's cross over to Tony Connolly because he's in Brussels for us. It's been an uneasy relationship that Mr. Trump has enjoyed with the EU. What has been the reaction in Brussels then, Tony?
That's right, Sharon. In fact, a Pew Research survey carried out in June said that 85% of Europeans had an unfavourable view of Donald Trump. I think the attitude in Europe is one of shock and dismay at this result. But when you look at those populist parties in France and in the Netherlands and Germany, they've all been jubilant this morning at the result. I think the real concerns for European capitals have been Donald Trump's pronouncements on the transatlantic alliance. He's disparaged NATO. He's threatened to tear up trade agreements. He's threatened to walk out of the World Trade Organization. He's threatened to tear up the Paris Climate Change Accord as well. So those are all things that will weigh heavily on European minds. For the moment, the attitude is one of respect that's governed by protocol more than anything else. I think people will be very anxious to hear what kind of team he assembles around him and what his first policy menu or manifesto will be once he takes office.
So a tricky job of diplomacy ahead then, given those key differences in policy.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly the whole idea of the transatlantic security umbrella, I suppose the Western liberal order, which has held sway since the end of the Second World War. I mean, that order has only been there because of the American guarantee. And it's clear now from his pronouncements that Donald Trump does not think of those that historic relationship in the same way. Certainly also his relationship with Russia, his flirtation, if you like, with President Vladimir Putin is deeply unsettling in Europe, especially as Europe faces what many believe is a threat from Russia, especially as well since Europe is largely helpless to get involved in the Syria civil war and again relies on American leverage, and all of that is now under question.
Tony in Brussels, thank you. David Murphy, it is a vulnerable time for us here post-Brexit. Should we be even more jittery today?
Well, the markets are certainly jittery, and we've seen, a big fall in the markets, followed by some of them paring back their losses. Interestingly, the situation in Dublin is quite different because the stock market here has actually risen this morning, and that's largely because CRH, the construction materials group, looks set to benefit from Donald Trump's plan to improve infrastructure, particularly roads. But I think on the other side, the issue for the multinationals who have a big presence in Ireland is that Donald Trump is talking about reducing tax on company profits in the US from 35% to 15%. A key attraction for them to move to Ireland has been our 12.5% rate of tax. So that would become less attractive if he follows through on that pledge. The other issue is that he's talking about cutting personal taxes. He's also talking about introducing a 45% tariff on goods coming in from China. And he's talking about renegotiating the trade deal with Canada and Mexico and not going ahead with the TTIP trade deal between Europe and the US. So there's some huge changes there. But I guess the big question is, what is going to be the difference between his pre-election political rhetoric and actions he's going to follow through on?
Very good. Thank you, David.
Well, one place where the outcome of the election was closely watched was Doonbeg in County Clare, the location of the Trump International Golf Resort. The managing director of the resort has been describing the reaction in the area to the result.
Both Mr. Trump and Mike Pence have connections, both business and personal connections back to Doonbeg. Even last night, there was a lot of excitement in the village last night, which ran right through until this morning. And the telephone calls, the texts, the emails that are coming through is absolutely fantastic, not only from the local community, but the region itself. A lot of business leaders within the region have been emailing and calling this morning. Had a most recent telephone call I had from Sharon Airport just to pass on our best regards to and congratulations to Mr. Trump and his family particularly who've been on this journey with him.
So what do we know about the 45th President of the United States? Our Washington correspondent Katrina Perry has been looking at the life and work of Donald Trump.
He's one of the most famous men in America.
I think he's been thinking about politics and running for office for the better part of 4 decades.
Long known for his wealth and the lavish lifestyle he prefers, yachts, helicopters, beachfront estate, a New York tower, attaching his name wherever he can.
If I put my name on something, you know it's going to be good.
According to Forbes, he's currently worth $3.7 billion. But life began in Queens. His father was the New York real estate tycoon Fred Trump.
His father was a great builder, developer in New York City. He used to send planes over the main beach in Brooklyn with his name trailing off the back of the plane. His mother is a bit more of a mysterious character, but what Donald Trump says about her is that she was all about performance and pageantry.
His mother Mary, seen here in an RTE programme, was born in Scotland.
In a little town called Stornoway, with the island of Lewis, way up in the Hebrides. Came to New York, met my husband, went back to Scotland and came back to New York to get married.
After college, Trump received a loan of $1 million from his father to start his real estate portfolio, before joining and taking control of the family business. He's synonymous with parts of the New York cityscape, transforming the rundown Commodore Hotel at Grand Central Station into the Grand Hyatt Hotel and rejuvenating an almost derelict area. Famous too for several hotels, the soaring Trump Tower, where he has his business operations and lives with his family. But his developments have not always been welcomed by Manhattanites.
Donald Trump treated the local people with complete contempt. Usually developers come to us if they're going to build a new building and say, here's what we plan. Do you have any ideas, any suggestions? We want to work with you. Trump had the audacity not to come to us, but to announce it on his TV show, The Apprentice. That is so rude.
Multiple properties bear his name around the world, including at Doonbeg in County Clare and in Scotland.
Welcome to the Trump Taj Mahal.
He famously once opened the largest casino in America in Atlantic City, the Trump Taj Mahal, but it and other business ventures there failed spectacularly, resulting in Trump filing for bankruptcy 4 times. He also became a reality TV star, hosting The Apprentice for 14 seasons and held the rights to several major televised beauty pageants.
Ian, you're fired.
But this celebrity status led to one of the most damaging revelations of the campaign.
You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the you can do anything.
Controversy has followed him, from his early signature pledge
Nobody builds walls better than me, believe me.
to his impersonation of a journalist with a disability.
You got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
Exchanges at the presidential debates that had never been seen before.
If I win, I am going to instruct my Attorney General to get a special prosecutor to look into your situation.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Embroiled in a lawsuit over Trump University seeking to have the judge removed.
He's a member of a club or society very strongly pro-Mexican, which is all fine. But I say he's got bias. I want to build a wall. I'm going to build a wall.
A longtime leader of the birther movement, he recently finally admitted that President Barack Obama was American-born.
President Barack Obama was born in the United States, period.
His personal life has been colourful too. Married first to model Ivana Trump, with whom he had 3 children, Ivanka, Eric and Donald Jr., but cheated on her with another model, Marla Maples, later marrying her and having daughter Tiffany. They divorced and Trump is now married to Slovenian model Melania Naus, who is the mother of his youngest son, Baron. Although almost nobody predicted it, Donald Trump beat off 17 Republican contenders to get the most votes in the primary season of any Republican candidate ever.
He has done a very good job throughout his career of shaping messages so that people either see his way or let him get his way.
Katrina Perry, RTE News, Washington, D.C.
Now, coming up, devastation for Democrats. Where now for the Clintons and the party? Welcome back to this extended 1 o'clock news. Donald Trump has been elected as the 45th President of the United States of America. The Republican scored a stunning win over his Democratic rival, Hillary Clinton.
In his victory speech, Mr. Trump said it was time for America to come together as one united people and pledge to be a president for every citizen in America.
We can now have a look at the individual states voted. 3 states still have not declared. These are Minnesota, Michigan and New Hampshire. But the scale of Donald Trump's victory is apparent overall. And of course, he won the battleground states of Florida, Ohio and Pennsylvania.
Well, in the all-important Electoral College, Donald Trump comfortably exceeded the target of 270 votes needed to win the presidency. He's currently on 289. That's compared to Hillary's 218.
And in the popular vote, that's the number of Americans who voted for each candidate. You can see how tight the margins were, with currently just 0.1% between Mr. Trump and Mrs. Clinton, with the Democratic candidate ahead. Well, we're joined now by Gina London, political commentator, and by Larry Donnelly, lecturer at the NUIG School of Law. Gina, if I come to you first. Now, the campaign was all talk, but now the real work must begin for Donald Trump.
Absolutely, and he built his campaign on saying the right message to the right segment of audience, depending on where he was at one time. And we've got him promising to build the wall, of course, to get out immigrants, to set up some sort of policy that fixes NATO, to take care of every manufacturing job that ever left the United States. He's made so many promises without any details around them now, Aengus, and that is really what's going to come to play. Is he says he's going to bring everyone together, but how is he then going to bring these messages to pass? The first 100 days of any presidency, as you all know, are the ones that you really begin to see. Who does he get as his team? Who are his advisors, his cabinet members, and how does he begin to work with the Congress to set that agenda, that platform in motion? It's going to be very important what he does with those first 100 days.
Now, Larry, I mean, a lot of his voters were anti-establishment, but now he is establishment. So how exactly is he going to fit in?
It's very difficult. He ran against his own party, he ran against his own party platform, and he ran against Washington. But now the fact is, if he wants to get any of the things that Gina mentioned done, he's going to have to work on Capitol Hill to get these things done, and it's going to be incredibly difficult for him. Again, he's somebody who ran on it's rather unique in modern presidential elections for a candidate to disavow so many key items of his party's platform, and now he's going to try to work with those party colleagues. It's going to be extremely difficult.
Now, Gina, in his acceptance speech this morning, he said that he wanted to unite America. Can he really achieve that?
Well, I think the division, well, it depends on him. It depends on if the Democrats are going to work with him. Don't forget, we had a Democratic president for 8 years in Washington, and the Republicans largely refused to work. Now, even though they were in control of the House and the Senate, and that was part of the reason behind it, so they could stall some of these legislature pieces that President Obama wanted to get through, and the Democrats don't have that advantage because they don't control the House and the Senate. Still, there is a system, and there is much division in the United States right now. Not only did we have an upset from expectations in polls about who is the president now, but yet don't forget we still have about 50 plus million people who did vote for Hillary Clinton because this was so tight, as you said, 0.1%. It's the same as what JFK beat Nixon in what is one of the tightest races. We keep thinking about 2000, but that race back in 1960 was a very, very tight race too. So bridging that divide will be critical, and he will have to change that vitriolic rhetoric and strike more of the pose that we saw this morning when he made his speech.
And Larry, I mean, a lot of Conservatives supported Donald Trump. What impact will that have on, say, things like the Supreme Court and social policy?
Well, a significant impact on the Supreme Court, because one of the surprising things about this election was the fact that Donald Trump won the nomination and indeed won the support of many evangelicals, despite the fact that here he was divorced 3 times, formerly pro-choice on abortion. The reason he was able to do that was at the very beginning of his campaign, he reassured evangelicals that if he were elected president, he would appoint judges to the Supreme Court that they would approve of, and that means action on abortion, gun control, all the issues that are near and dear to them. So in terms of affecting social policy in the longer term, having a President Trump could have a profound impact on the composition of the United States Supreme Court.
Now, if I could ask you both briefly, this was a most unusual campaign.
To say the least.
Is this, or was this, a once-off, or is it a taste of things to come?
Well, that's a question that will be unfolding, isn't it? I mean, has this changed the way that politicians speak and I think a lot of it's going to be dependent upon, will these words, as we talked about already, be able to be turned into action and policy, and will it address some of these very clear needs and shortcomings that have caused these divisions in the United States?
Larry, what do you think?
I would say that this election has changed American politics, or is indicative of a change in American politics, in the sense that elections beforehand were fought along traditional left versus right lines. This election was fought on in a lot different wavelength. We saw that in the Democratic primary with the rise of Bernie Sanders. We saw it in the Republican primary with the rise of Donald Trump. This was fought on the idea of what's the proper role for America in the world, and we saw Donald Trump adopt a very strong nationalist, inward-looking focus, whereas Hillary Clinton was more globalist and outward-looking in her focus. The fact is, Donald Trump connected with the American people because they are where he is. They're not where the leadership of the 2 major political parties are.
Gina London, Larry Donnelly, thank you both very much.
Well, the election result is dominating the business news. Here's Brian with more.
Thanks, Sharon. Well, markets have settled down a little after the initial negative reaction to a Trump victory, reflecting the uncertainty that lies ahead for the US and global economies. Volatility will be the watchword for the coming days. The dollar has come back from the massive fall this morning. At one point, it was at $1.13 against the euro. It's now back at around $1.10.5. That's where it was before the count started. Stock markets, after initial volatility, have pulled back a little bit, and traders appear to be adopting a wait-and-see approach. It's a cliche, but it's true. Traders hate uncertainty, and last night they got it in spades. The drama played out on the Asian markets. Tokyo closed over 5% lower. European stocks followed that trend when they opened, but made back much of the losses as the morning progressed. But uncertainty lies ahead, and that's sure to be matched by greater volatility.
There'll be some capital outflows from higher beta markets like the emerging equity markets, the Asian markets, Asian fixed income, and probably some volatility ahead until we have a better idea of what kind of policies a Trump presidency is going to entail.
From an Irish point of view, it's a double whammy. Already suffering from the unknown effects of Brexit, this adds to the uncertainty.
If he does implement what he said he's going to do, a 15% corporate tax rate, that really will take away Ireland's tax advantage. So we won't have the tax card to play anymore. We've a lot of other cards, but now we'll really be testing the hypothesis that people have. It's all about the tax. I don't believe it is myself, but we're going to find out if he implements his plans.
On an international level, the talk moves to prospects for global growth. Are we facing into another period of slow growth or worse?
I don't know. I mean, people will still turn up at Boeing this morning and make planes, and turn up at GE and make turbines. So, I mean, I think, it continues. Companies will continue to do what they need to do. The question is around policy and policy details. At the moment, we don't have great details on that policy.
Those policies won't be known until January at the earliest. Expect lots of wild market swings in between. The Mexican peso bore the brunt of the overnight market fallout. It was viewed by many as a barometer of market expectations to the election outcome. It recorded a massive 12% fall against the dollar, which saw it sinking to an all-time low of 21 pesos. Healthcare and particularly pharmaceutical stocks were the big winners on the markets this morning. Donald Trump's victory led investors to conclude that the threat of tough action on drug pricing had receded. Hillary Clinton's drug pricing criticisms have weighed on shares in the pharma sector for over a year now. Let's take a closer look at the markets now. The Isaac Index of Irish shares bucking the trend globally is almost 1.5% higher. CRH and Ryanair gained. Smurfit Kappa and Dalata are both down. In London, the FTSE is 0.5% lower. The DAX in Frankfurt is down 1.3%. In Paris, the CAC is almost 1.5% lower, while in Tokyo, the Nikkei dropped 5.3% by the close this morning. On the currencies, the euro buys 89 pence sterling and $1 and 10.5 cents. Stay up to date on all the business news at rte.ie/business. And that's the business news for now. It's back to you, Aengus.
Brian, thank you. Well, in the past few minutes, it's been confirmed that 5 people have been killed in a tram crash in South London. Our London correspondent, Fiona Mitchell, joins us now on the line. Fiona, what can you tell us?
Well, this incident happened shortly after 6 o'clock this morning, Aengus, and it happened at an area known as the Sandylands, a tram stop, which is near Croydon in South London. Now, the tram appears to have come off the rail, and a number of people were trapped, a large number of people immediately taken to hospital, over 50 taken to local hospitals for treatment. A number of people trapped, and indeed authorities remain at the scene trying to help people. But within the last 20 minutes, confirmation that 5 people lost their lives. Now, what we do know is that 1 arrest has been made. We understand that that is the driver of the tram, but British Transport Police say that this is very much a situation which is under ongoing investigation, and it is indeed an ongoing rescue situation also. So they say that really at the moment that is as much information as they can give, but obviously huge shock in the area where it happened, and locals this morning reporting hearing the noise and hearing the incident happen. But as I say, a large number of people taken to hospital and 5 confirmed fatalities.
Fiona, thank you. And of course, we will have more on that story in later bulletins.
Let's have a final word with Richard Downs. He's still in Washington for us. How nervous are the so-called Washington elites right now then, Richard?
I would say very nervous, Sharon. One of the great chants at all the Trump rallies that you heard was drain the swamp. And what they meant was to attack corruption in Washington. And if you consider that a congressman, an ordinary member of the House of Representatives, has to raise between $3 and $15 million to get elected, a senator has to raise about $10 million to get elected, and there's only one place they can get that. Generally speaking, that's from corporate sources, and those corporate sources want something back for that. You can see why the whole perception of corruption has been such a big thing, and Donald Trump is going to have to come forward with proposals, legislative proposals. Now, some people say that he didn't expect to win, his team didn't expect him to win, so they don't really have a lot of proposals. It was all a lot of bluster, and it was all a lot of sound bites, and they didn't have the backbone and the actual research behind it and the proposals to change Washington. We'll find out about that in the days, weeks and months ahead. I notice a lot of the TV networks here now have guests who have big badges that they're wearing with TGIO on those badges. TGIO standing for Thank God It's Over, and that's also a sense you get here. It's been a very long campaign. People are very tired after it, and they want to get on with their lives.
It's the end of the campaign, but it's only the beginning of the job of delivering. Great expectation from Trump in terms of delivering jobs and investment.
Well, absolutely, because he promised in those Rust Belt states that he did so very well in, he's promised that there will be big changes, and he's going to bring the jobs back, he's going to bring the prosperity back, he's going to build a wall between the United States and Mexico, he has promised to deport a lot of the illegal immigrants who are here. So he has made big promises, but back to that point, has he actually got proposals, concrete proposals that he can negotiate with the Congress, with the Senate and with the House of Representatives? Because the presidency, as President Obama found, is a very constrained office in the United States. It was designed specifically that way so that nobody could get too uppity, nobody could get so much power that they could run the United States as a kind of quasi-dictatorship. So that's where the rubber meets the road for President Donald Trump-elect. He has to find ways of getting proposals, if he has them and if they're detailed enough, through both of those houses. And that's where all the hard work really begins.
Richard,
days, weeks and months ahead.
We're way over. Thank you indeed.
And that's Wednesday's extended 1 o'clock news from Sharon and me. Good afternoon.
Bye for now.
America, God shed his grace on thee and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for halcyon skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesty, above the emerald plain. America, America, God shed his grace on